Hello everyone, I am Parikshit Saikia, your Quants and Lrdi expert on the Unacademy Plus platform, and welcome today to another very exciting session. The last 7 days, and we need to ensure that we have a proper strategy in place. To be more precise, I'd call it a proper revision strategy in place before we actually appear the CAT this DD, right? The 29th, next Sunday, which is quite near. So the next 15 minutes, I'm going to talk all about the revision strategies. So make sure that you watch this 15-minute video to get the best of the tips. But as always, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is give me 5 seconds to ensure that I'm streaming live before we get started with today's session. The revision strategies. Okay, I think we are streaming live and we are good to start. A small notification at the start. There is a national scholarship test, right? Scheduled on Unacademy this Sunday. Please enroll for this test because there are a lot of free Amazon vouchers to be won. I know that a lot of you will be writing the CAT. So in case you're back home after the CAT, or in case you are not appearing for the CAT but as a CAT 2022 aspirant, you can enroll for this test this Sunday because there are a lot of Amazon vouchers to be won. So make sure that you don't miss out. Let's get started with today's session. Okay. Let's get started, right? The last 7 days to the CAT. Okay, I'm going to talk section wise, right? Verbal, Lrdi as the Quants. Let's start with my favorite section, Quants. Okay. Now, these last 7 days, it is very important that you do not start anything new. Do not start anything new. Do not start anything new. In case you have not done, let's take an example, PNC. Okay, as an example, PNC. It is perfectly fine. You have not done PNC. Probably at this point, you can skip PNC. At this point, what you can do, if you just want to make sure that, okay, I want to do PNC, you can just go through 10 or 15 solved examples. That's it. You cannot be solving any chapter which you have never done before. So definitely do not start anything new. If you have looked at the last 3 to 4 years of CAT papers, right, you realize one thing. The major proportion of questions, right, the major proportion of questions that comes in the CAT in Quants, right, is from 2 areas, which is arithmetic and algebra. That does not mean I'm guaranteeing you that this time it is the same. No, but the probability is that arithmetic and algebra will constitute a very high weightage as always. So you definitely need to ensure that a major part of your revision time is spent on arithmetic. Have you recently revised topics like installments, SICI installments? Have you revised concepts like maxima, minima, functions? Because these are concepts which people tend to forget, right? So a revision, a last minute revision is required lest you feel that you have forgotten this and you are not able to solve these questions on the exam day. So spend, I would say, at least 50 to 60% of whatever time you plan to invest in these last 7 days on arithmetic and algebra topics. When I say arithmetic, I basically mean time, speed, distance, time and work, ratio, proportion, percentages, profit loss discount, simple interest, compound interest, and average mixtures and allegations. Similarly, algebra. Now, when you are revising, okay, one very important thing in Quants that I must tell you, do mixed revision. Do mixed revision. What do I mean by mixed revision? What do I mean by mixed revision? When I say mixed revision, it simply means that you should not be spending the entire day on one chapter. Rather, if you plan to, let's say, study for 3 hours, you let's say plan to study for 3 hours, do questions from multiple chapters. If you're doing 5 questions from percentages, do another 5 from profit and loss, do another 5 from time, speed and distance, another 5 from time and work, and so on. Why? Because you must have realized at this point that your brain is actually, it's easy for the brain to focus on one area. Let's say you have been doing only numbers questions since morning until it is late night now. You get a certain level of comfort level, right? Your brain is acquainted, right, with questions from number system. Probably the numbers are immediately fresh in your mind. The number of factors, the sum of factors, the product of factors, these are all fresh in your mind. But let's say among when you are doing numbers question, let's say I suddenly bring in a questions on clocks. How easy or difficult is it for your brain to immediately shift to a question on clocks, or for that matter another question on escalator based questions? So you should be at ease to shift from one topic to the other within seconds. Your brain should be very well acquainted to this kind of pattern. So make sure that whenever you are revising these last few days, you do mixed revision. Doesn't matter you are studying for 2 hours quants or you are studying for 1 hour, but make sure that you are studying across chapters. So you can pick up 3 random questions from arithmetic, from algebra, 3 from geometry, 3 from number system, and so on. And every time do that whenever you sit down to study. Next, do not spend time on something which is very difficult. Do not, I say do not, anything which is very difficult. Because at this point, just imagine, think about it logically. What I'm just telling you is very logical. What is the probability of getting the same question which is very difficult, which you have not been able to understand, which you have spent 30 minutes on one question? What is the probability of getting the same question in the exam hall, right? It's probably very, very, very less, minuscule, right? And more so, even if it comes, because you find the question very difficult, you might not even end up solving it. So there is no point spending 20, 25 or rather 30 minutes on such a question. What I would say is, rather spend those 30 minutes more judiciously. Try to spend those 30 minutes in 10 easy questions, and solve it. That will be more beneficial rather than spending 30 minutes on a difficult sum. Okay, next. Also, when you are preparing, okay, these last 7 days, when you are preparing, you need to ensure that you are preparing in slots of 40 minutes. So let's say you are sitting down to solve quants question, okay? Solve in slots of 40 minutes. When I say 40 minutes, you need to have at least a question bank, which will contain minimum 20 to 25 questions. 20 to 25 questions, okay? Because that's the target you will have even in your exam day. So every time you sit to study, make sure that even time is taken care of, because you know what? CAT is just not a test of your knowledge and accuracy. It is also a test of your speed, right? So you need to ensure that you are always accustomed and you are always habituated to a timer. So set the timer on before you actually start solving. Please identify your strong areas. In quants, you might be very good at solving arithmetic questions, but you might be poor in solving geometry questions. Then what you need to do is, okay, please concentrate on the strong areas these last few days. Why? Because anything which you are not good at, which you could not be good at over a period of 5-6 months, you will definitely not be good at in just 7 days, right? In just 7 days. That's nearly, to be very honest, a practical advice could be nearly impossible. So make sure that if you are good at arithmetic, these last 6 days, stress on arithmetic. Why? Because whenever you see an arithmetic question in the exam hall, you would want to attempt that question. Okay, even if the difficulty level is moderate, you'd want to attempt it. Why? Because you know what? You are not good at geometry. So what the remaining 2 lakh odds CAT aspirants might be able to solve a geometry question, but you might not be able to solve it. So definitely you need to balance that, right? Whatever you could not solve in geometry has to be balanced in your strong area, let's say arithmetic, and hence you need to overemphasize on your strong area. Emphasis on strong area at this point is also important because that boosts up your confidence. And if you are confident before going to the exam hall, you tend to do well. Okay, you tend to do well. So very, very important. Do not start anything new. Just practice and practice and practice whatever you have already done. Remember, June, July, September, you must have solved a few mocks. You probably do not even remember those questions. It is now high time that you open those previously attempted mocks and find out what went wrong, what were the things that ought to have been learned in those mocks, and at least get the learning at this point of time. Do not write any more mocks at this point, because remember, the purpose of mocks is to make you realize which are your strong and weak areas. That has already been taken care of. 6 days before your exam, I am sure all of you know what you are good at and what you are probably weak at. Okay, that takes care of quants. Next, I will talk about verbal. Next, let's talk about verbal. Okay, now for verbal, you know what? It is always about reading passages. It is always about reading passages. Please go through a few more passages again. Probably passages, I'm sure there would be passages which you did not attempt in the mock. Did not attempt in mocks. Okay. Now, it could be the passage was very difficult and it was meant to have been left. That is a perfect strategy. You did not attempt. There is no point revising it. Don't revise it. But there were other questions which you got it wrong. Okay, which you got wrong, especially verbal. The questions which you got wrong and the passages which you did not attempt because of a paucity of time, right? It is high time at this stage that you open those previously attempted mocks and look at these questions once again and make sure you get them correct. Make sure you get them correct. When I say get them correct, it is not only about getting them correct, but more importantly, understanding why the option that you chose was incorrect. Right? There were 4 options, A, B, C, D. You probably would have ticked A. It is at this point you need to understand why option A is wrong. Why? That why part is very, very, very important. There is absolutely no point reading the correct answer, let's say D, right, without realizing why you were wrong. You need to find out why does a gap exist. What was the gap between your thought process and the author's thought process? Remember, in verbal, I wouldn't say quantity matters. I would rather say quality matters, right? Quality. There is no point trying to solve another 100 comprehension passages in this last 6 days. Rather try to solve another 50 caselets. Probably, I won't say 50 is also a too big a number. Probably 5 caselets per day. 5 comprehension passages 5 per day makes it around 30, or if more than that, 30-40 passages these last few days. But stress on that why part. You tick something wrong, find out what is the author's viewpoint. Why did the author think in a different direction, and did you, after reading the answer, able to be convinced that why my thought process was wrong? Let's say many a times, at least it happens with me, and many a times it might have happened with you as well, that even after reading the author's answer, you are not confident. You are not confident, or you are not convinced why the particular option that you chose was wrong. In such questions, it is best that you leave such questions unattempted should they appear in the CAT. Should they appear in the CAT. It could be a passage as simple, or a question as simple as like, what was the inference from the passage, or what was the tone of the passage. Fine, every time you get the tone wrong, right? Every time, 90% of the times you are getting the tone of the passage wrong. It's time now, right? You could not get it correct in the last 6 months or the last 5 months. You have actually worked on it. You have actually revisited your notes, but still you don't get it correct. Fine, there is no point in revising it once again. Or fine, I would say rather, you don't attempt such questions again. Remember, you have a lot of options, right? And you need to pick up questions which are your strongest area. Some of you would probably be telling me, I am good at para-jumbers. Fine, then attempt the para-jumbers. Make sure that your accuracy is high and make sure you compensate for any loss in other areas. Okay. The next part. So verbal is all about accuracy. Remember, it's not the number of attempts. There is no point telling me or telling at the end of your exam, I attempted 25 out of 25 questions in verbal, but I don't know my accuracy. No, you probably would want to do 60%, 70% attempts, but with a 95 to 100% accuracy. Very, very, very important. Okay. Next we will talk about the LRDI section. The LRDI section in the CAT. How do you revise the LRDI section? Okay. Now you already have attempted or tried to attempt or have practiced hundreds of caselets, LRDI caselets over the last few months. Now this is the time to stop that. Do not touch anything new. Whatever you have practiced, trust me, leave something to luck also, right? Leave something to luck. If you have practiced 400 caselets or for that matter 200 caselets, right? I think it is sufficient. At the end, out of the 200, let's take a small number. I'm sure you have done more than that, but let's say you have practiced 200 caselets till date, okay? Around 200. You know what? There is a high chance, right? Can you say that, okay, out of the 200 caselets, I will not get even a one common? There is a chance that you might get 2 or 3 common. Very good chance, right? Whatever the probability of not getting anything common, there is an equal probability of getting 2 to 3 common. Now trust me, it would be a disaster. You would actually be regretting the entire next year if you get a caselet which was there in your books or which was there in one of the mocks, but on the exam day you could not solve that particular caselet. Trust me, that regret will be there for one long year. So this is the regret that you want to avoid at this point of time. I have already solved 200 caselets, and my belief is that out of the 200 caselets, I might get 2 or 3 common. When I say common, exactly the same logic, exactly the same concepts, probably only the numbers are difficult. So you do not want to cut a sorry figure here. You want to make sure that each of these 200 caselets that you have revised are fresh in your mind. So you definitely cannot be practicing 200 caselets over a span of 7 days. So out of the 200 caselets, you need to shortlist around 100 caselets or around 80 caselets, 100 to 80 caselets, depending on how much time you can devote these last few days. Now, how do you do the shortlist for revision? There are some caselets like which are very easy, okay, which you know when you attempted the mock, you got them correct in the least possible time. So moment such a question appears again, this time when you are trying to revise or when you are going through the different pages, you can skip that because anything which you got correct, okay, the first time, okay, in the least possible time, there is a high chance that you will get that correct even if it were to reappear on the exam day. But what you need to revise, is caselets which you got correct but with a lot of struggle. Correct but lots of struggle. When I say lots of struggle, probably it was just by fluke, probably you took 20 minutes. These were probably not the right methods. So spend some time now these last few days analyzing what was the best method, what were the key pointers that I actually missed out, because of which I took a lot of time. So out of the 200 odd caselets, have a strategy in mind so that at the end of 6 or 7 more days, you can finish at least, when I say finish, I mean revise, okay? Revise at least 80 to 100 caselets so that on the exam day, when you are actually going and sitting in your exam hall, right, you feel confident about it. Definitely spend extra time on understanding caselets where students often go wrong, or if you have not done it for a long time, you often tend to forget concepts like cubes, right? Roots and networks, games and tournaments, right? Max mean questions, at least, at most. These are the type of questions where students often find it difficult, and if you have not practiced, let's say these 4 types of categories of questions over the last 1 month, chances are that even if you are able to solve in the exam hall, your speed will be very slow. You definitely would want to revise anything which you are not very comfortable, okay, and which you think a revision is must because it has either been a very long time since you last practiced, let's say a question on cubes, or B, these are the things that you find it difficult. So take a note of it. Either put it in a mobile or have a notepad, write it somewhere so that just before your exam you don't panic. And more importantly, you don't regret. Trust me, You won't regret. I and you won't regret if I get something which I've never done before, right? Probably the 2 lakh odd students who are also writing the CAT along with me, if I prepared well and I have never seen such a caselet before, it is an equal probability that even those 2 lakh odd students have never done that caselet before. Very good chance. But what I would definitely regret for the entire year is I know something, I have done something in the month of September or probably October, but on the 29th, I am not able to recall. That will be the biggest regret. Trust me, a lot of us have gone through the phase, and out of experience, I'm telling you this. So make it a point that your revision is complete. You have a plan in mind. It's not that today I'm going to solve 5 caselets, because today if I solve 5 caselets and my target is to solve 100 caselets before the CAT, another 95 in 5 days would be very difficult. So divide this caselets equally, okay, over the next 5-6 days. Remember, even Sunday, only half of the day has gone, less than half. So half of the day, even today, is remaining. So divide your time period. When you get up, wake up from bed, right? Have a plan, okay? These are the things that I'm gonna do. And you think that you forget because of your exam pressure, note it down in a paper or note it down in an Excel sheet that these are the things for revision. You might be walking around and suddenly you remember you want to revise cubes. Note it down in your mobile so that when you sit down to study, you know what is there to be studied, right? It's not a random game. There is a thought process, there is a puzzle, there is a strategy that you have made, and you are sticking to that strategy. Very, very, very important. I think that's it. I think we spoke a lot about what you can do these last 6-7 days. Trust me, give your best. You are just before the finishing line, and it's just the final push that is required to make sure that you cross that finishing line. Okay? And I'm sure that with proper effort, guidance, and obviously, I would say a lot of effort from your end, success is quite close. Success is quite close. Yes? And you're sure to success. So till the next time we meet, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. In case you have liked the session, please do hit the like button. That's a request from my end because that motivates us to make more and more such free videos, right? Thank you so much. Keep preparing and stay safe. Thank you. Bye.